Hey guys, and welcome. Episode 5 of the Halo TV series dropped today, and I've got to say, it was the best episode by far. For me, this episode had it all: story and plot progression, and an epic battle scene. By far the best episode and fight scenes that we've had in the series since it launched. So today, as usual, for the first part of the video, will be my spoiler-free review of the episode, and obviously, of course, my reaction as well. And the second part will go into a more spoiler review and a breakdown of the episode as well, and obviously the lore and the content of that too. But as usual, leave a like, subscribe for more content coming, and let's get straight into it. So the episode, as mentioned, was very, very good. The best one out of the bunch by an absolute mile. The action scene we got wasn't just a generic encounter like in the first episode. We got to see members of the Covenant like Jackals with their shields and even wielding an energy sword alongside them as well, which I absolutely loved. We've seen grunts, which are back as well, and I'm so happy about it. Elites, and fucking hell, we even got our first look at brutes with gravity hammers. That made me smile a lot. Again, the battle and CGI, 10 out of 10. I don't care what anyone says, this was the most Halo-like episode out of the bunch so far. The way the fighting happened, the phantoms dropping down, the way the enemies fought, I loved every second of it really, and I can't wait to see more like this. Other good parts of the episode include things like the progression of Chief's story and plot, trying to learn more around his visions and ultimately what happened to him and his family when he was younger. I've got to say the story and the plot takes a mental turn in episode 5. Something I thought that we might have to wait a few episodes more to find it out and to flesh it out, but they just went balls to the wall with it straight away, which made for a really engaging episode, to be honest. That a really good story progression alongside that amazing battle, it made the episode for me. And to be honest, I'm really looking forward to seeing where the episode goes in episode 6. Now, I do believe that episode 6 might be a little bit more laid back and a little more chilled out in terms of there probably won't be another epic battle. That may be for episode 7 with the way the story is gone. But nevertheless, I'm looking forward to it. Now, onto the more critical points of the episode. The first one being just Quan Ha in general. Thankfully, Quan Ha wasn't in this episode as much as I thought she probably would have been as compared to the previous episodes. Because her story is just so boring, and I actually couldn't give less of a shit about Quan Ha and her story. It really doesn't bother me. I love the Chief, I love the UNSC side of things, and I love the Covenant. It's why we love Halo. For me, Quan Ha does not fit in this world at all. Her story doesn't add to it. I think having human rebels in Halo, it doesn't really fit. I mean, in the overall Halo lore, we had things like ancient humans that were there previously, but they served an overall purpose. For me, the rebels like Quan Ha and her family and the people she was with at the start are just something to add in there for the TV side of things. It's not something that fits Halo, and that may be why I don't really like it, and a lot of people feel the same. Personally, though, I really like Soren, and to be honest, the episode was their scenes, it was just them two together on their section of the story and where they are currently leading up to this point, and she's just being really, really stupid, wanting to go and help them fight against the new rebel leader after her father's death, and basically is being really stupid, and she could get Soren killed. If she does get Soren killed, I will be so irritated by that. The way that she's written and the direction the story goes, if that is the way that it's intending to go, I will not be happy with the outcome, and I will kick off a little bit. There also isn't much helmet removing in this episode compared to episode 4 as well, which I did quite like, to be honest. There were parts where the Chief did take his helmet off, but it was more in dialogue purposes. Like for the thing like the battle, obviously it was on all the time. And to be fair, even when they were just standing around in some of the courtyards on Aridness 2, his helmet was on during where there was no combat, so there was a lot less of helmet removing in this episode, which I did like and appreciate a bit more. And to be honest, this episode was only around 40 minutes long, with the action scene taking up around 20 minutes of that episode, so around halfway. So yeah, it was really well needed for that action scene like that to happen. I just hope the next couple of episodes aren't going to be filler ones building up to another battle, because it was kind of slow from episode 1 all the way to episode 5. We had to wait those episodes in between to get something like this fighting scene, so I hope that it would have to wait that long again. But overall, a really, really good episode. A fight scene that was a 10 out of 10 in my opinion. The story has progressed extremely well, and I've come out of that episode wanting more, which is the ultimate goal really, isn't it? So anyway, we're now going to move on to the more spoiler review and breakdown of the episode. So if you are leaving us now, thank you all for watching, really appreciate it. Leave a like, and we'll catch you all in the next one. Now, the episode itself, as mentioned already, progressed the story really, really well. We got to see how Halsey and Captain Keyes first scouted John on Eridness 2 when he was a boy, and a snippet of how he was kidnapped and replaced with a clone, which was really interesting to see. As the story progressed though throughout the episode, John got really curious about this point, and he began asking questions to Captain Keyes, in which Keyes looked very anxious because he was there at the time when Halsey essentially was scouting out John, and advised the chief that he will take care of it and speak with Halsey. After he speaks with Halsey and Parangoski, they all agree to essentially wait it out and try and convince John otherwise and wait until they get back onto Reach, as I've mentioned at the moment they're on Eridness 2 and they're trying to figure out what this artifact is. The thing is though, throughout the episode John was not having any of it, and he decided to touch the second keystone in order to try and reveal another memory around why Halsey was there at the time that his parents were still alive, and essentially what happened to his parents and how he became a Spartan. Throughout the episode, he was also asking Cortana for any records on himself or the Spartan 2 program, and everything in Cortana's records was completely wiped about that. So he of course was very curious about it. So he decided to touch the second keystone, and it revealed a memory of his abduction. Alongside that as well, Halsey drugging him and replacing him with a clone. John actually goes for Halsey after this. Like, he tries to punch her and hurt her as well, which was a bit mental, to be honest. That was the one thing that kind of took me back. I didn't expect it at all. But when he did try to do this, Cortana shut it down, his neural link, and that's when he became paralyzed, and that's when he was given a bit of time to calm down and Halsey got out of there. But yeah, that was a bit mental for me, to be honest. So that's the one part that I wasn't really too sure about. Obviously, in episode 6, we're going to hear more into the story, probably how Halsey's going to explain to John what happened and how John takes it. It will be very interesting to know as well. So yeah, that's the only story progression we got in this episode, but wow, it really does make me excited for episode 6 to see where the story goes and how it progresses as well. Okay, so now moving more onto the plot of the episode. So after this second keystone was found in the previous episode, and in this episode it was essentially covered in some form of capsule. So it was mined out with a laser and tries to free it from this casing, and once this was done using a laser, as you can see on screen, a piercing sound was let loose by this artifact, and everyone in the camp was they just couldn't take it. It was like a high frequency noise which you had to cover your ears for. It basically hurt your eardrums when listening to it, and this was actually a signal being sent from this artifact, which was picked up by Marquis, obviously the Covenant antagonist, and this is where the Covenant intercepted this signal, and that's how the Covenant knew where this artifact was on Eridness 2. And yeah, the battle started after that point when the Chief woke up from being knocked out by Cortana, and that's when the battle started. Now we start to see Covenant ships infiltrate the camp on Eridness 2 with banshees flying everywhere, phantoms dropping in, jackals, grunts, elites in combat. It was so sick. If there was anything in this TV series that reminds me of the games and how mental the battles could be, this scene is it. It was very, very good, and I really did love every minute of it as well. Now, an interesting point as well, which goes back to the previous episode but links into this one, is that we know that Kai removed her emotional suppressing chip, the one that was in her back, similar to the Master Chief, and from that point she could see everything in a different light. It essentially meant that she didn't really feel emotion, and she didn't really ask questions, she just did what she was ordered to do. But now that she's done that and she's in battle, she's become really, really vulnerable and began to severely struggle in combat, resulting into essentially her see all of the dead people around her, all of the Marines struggling and dying on the floor after they've been shot or hurt. It's really having an effect on her in the battlefield, and it results in her to pass out in an effect. Now, the Chief and the rest of Silver Team try to escort the artifact over to Miranda Keyes' ship, as it was essentially the only one that was available at the time. This artifact was trying to go back to Reach, where Halsey could basically look at both of these artifacts and see exactly why they're there and what they do. However, the Warhog that was carrying this artifact did actually explode due to a Banshee crashing into it, and the artifact was essentially sent across the ground into a very open area. At this point, a Covenant carrier drops down to Eridness 2, and then out of absolutely nowhere, a brute is sent to the surface to collect this artifact. The brutes are huge. They look amazing, and he was wielding a gravity hammer in his right hand, and him and the Chief were having a fight as well. It was epic. So sick. And it really does give you the perspective on how big the brutes actually are, which you don't really get really in the games. And it was a really, really cool thing to see, and to basically just to witness in live action as well, rather than just playing a Halo game. That was one of the unexpected things in the episode, and to be fair, it's one of my favourite things to see as well. I would love to see a big showdown between the Brutes and the Spartans, or even the Elite Brutes and Spartans in one of the future episodes. It would be really, really cool. The Brute then obviously takes the artifact and goes back up to the ship, and behind him, Kai is still unconscious on the ground, with Silver Team trying to help her up. But the interesting part to this episode as well, which I think will make for a very good episode 6 in terms of story, is that Marquis sent down in a Covenant drop pod by the Covenant to the surface of Eridanus 2 in. Now, the interesting part to this is that potentially Marquis knows that the UNSC have the other keystone, which is the reason why she's essentially sent herself down in order to be captured by them, because they're not really going to think much of a human coming from a drop pod. They're going to wonder why, but because it's a human, they're not going to really think too much into it, I should say. So she's going to get captured, taken in for interrogation, and I can only presume that that's where she finds the second keystone, by snooping around a little bit. And from episode 6, that's potentially where we get a big battle on Reach in episode 7, which I would love. Another really big battle on Reach, and especially in Reach as well, because the city would be an amazing place for CGI and the battle to take place. So we can only hope, eh? But going back to one of the points I made earlier in critiquing in my non-spoiler review part around Quan Hart and Soren, essentially in the previous episode we know that they tried to escape from Madrigal on a bike. In this episode we see that their bikes ran out of fuel and that they're stranded in this desert area. Quan Har's being stupid as usual, wanting to go back and fight by herself, and I don't know what good that's going to do. She's just being really annoying to be put it bluntly, to be honest. So Soren was like, no, we're going back to the rubble, you've caused me enough stress, which is fair enough, because she's lied to him about the money, his ship's been taken away, and now he's going to find his way back to the rubble on his own. So he handcuffs her to the bike, and he goes off to find a vehicle of some sort so that they could travel 100 miles to get to a ship to take them back to the rubble. She somehow manages to get free, which I don't really like, to be honest. And then she hides in the sand, waiting for Soren to come back. When Soren comes back, she tases him, and then he's knocked out. Why did she do that? Why have you tasered him? I don't get it. And then she takes his gun and points it at his head. Someone tell me why she's doing this. Someone tell me the reason why Quan Ha is in this series at all. Oh, I don't get it. I don't like it. I think she's boring. I think Soren is awesome. And if she gets Soren killed, I'm going to flip my shit. I'm really going to flip my shit. They are going to somehow go back to Madrigal and try and fight against the thousands of people that are there, and probably do absolutely nothing. I hope her story gets better. I hope I can care about her story a bit more, but at the moment I just don't. I do not give a crap about Quan Ha. I don't want anything bad to happen to Soren, because I like him. But yeah, let me know your thoughts and opinions down below. Bit of a rant there, but it's one of those moments you look at and think, why is this even here? What's the purpose of this? And it's all to do with TV. Essentially, it's something that the directors put into the TV series that people that have played Halo don't know about and might become interested in her story, and they might want to know more, and it's a mystery to them as well. With the other stuff with the UNSC and the Covenant, people that have played Halo and know the lore already know a lot about it. So yeah, maybe that's the reason for it, but either way, it's stupid, and I hope that the story gets better. That's literally the episode. It wasn't a very long one, probably around 40 minutes long, to be honest, and I've got to say I really enjoyed it. Let me know your thoughts down below, everyone. And as I mentioned, my favorite episode out of the bunch so far. The action was amazing, the storyline progression was really good, and I'm really excited, to be fair, to see how episode 6 takes it and what Marquis is going to do. And hopefully in episode 6 or 7 we might get our first glimpse at a Halo ring, so that'll be really exciting. But guys, as I mentioned, I hope you have enjoyed the video. Leave a like if you have enjoyed, subscribe if you are brand new. Have a great day. Speak soon. Take care.